lane fast, call it high speed. I've been working hard, yeah, I've been working nightly. If you think you'll win, nah, likely. I be taking shots, yeah, cold-blooded, icy. Watching numbers grow is what I call sightseeing. In the front row, run it up when they hype me. The following grows, they know how to ignite me. Call me CEO, I've been running shit right, see. And I ain't playing games, I create my own lane, making pleasure out of pain, turning losses into...
What is up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Welcome back to State of the Steelers. Welcome back to the show. We have another post game on this Victory Sunday as the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Cincinatti Bengals week 1 of the 2022 season in overtime in a thriller, so to speak. 23-20. Game that went down literally to the wire throughout the entire game. I mean, 5 full quarters, basically. A game that I thought was over several times in both directions, to be honest with you. So let's break down a little bit of what I had seen, and then we'll get into some of my thoughts about the show, about the game. Well, the Steelers won, but it came at a cost. From all indications right now, it's going to be confirmed tomorrow. However, it looks like TJ Watt's going to be missing significant time with a pec injury. It looks like he had some kind of torn pec. As he was walking off the field, he mouthed it, saying, "I tore my pec," and then walked immediately back to the back to the locker room. Najee Harris is another guy who we saw go down, who was also seen kind of very scary. He was jumping around. He looked very much injured. He'd been dealing with a Lisfranc sprain for majority of the offseason. So seeing that and seeing him go down like that, I was very concerned. All indications now is that it's not as severe as it looked. It looks like he'll be okay. Alex Highsmith was in and out with what looked like a shoulder injury, but I think he's going to be fine. He ended up finishing the game. Had a strong game. It was probably one of, if not Alex Highsmith's best game of his career. You know, he had the strip sack one of the many turnovers that the Pittsburgh Steelers got this game, in which Cam Hayward had recovered. I thought he played excellent. I thought he played well. He was in and out of the lineup. He hadn't played much during preseason. He'd been dealing with some ribs. You know, in my opinion, I think he did fantastic. He was out there. He looked like, you know, I've been questioning him this entire offseason. You can go back and watch all my videos. I've been saying that, hey, you know, Alex Highsmith needs to pick it up. He needs to step up, you know, having 6 sacks last year, and this year he came in clutch. You know, he was a huge part of this defense, and if this Pittsburgh Steelers are going to do anything continuing, he's going to have to really step it up because, like I mentioned before, TJ Watt don't look so good. And the other injury of notice, I believe it was Levi Wallace had an ankle injury. Nothing up to date as far as the severity, but it didn't look like it was too serious. And so let's talk about the game and what we saw. You know, in the first series, I noticed that, or for me at least, it appeared that that the Steelers were moving. The tempo was a little bit quicker. It felt a little bit faster. It was just unfortunate they went 3 and out. I know Mike Tomlin challenged the Deontay Johnson catch on the sideline. That was a little bit questionable as far as whether or not he was there. I understand it. I get it. But the very next drive, you know, Joe Burrow throws a pick 6 to Minkah Fitzpatrick. I'm jumping up and down. I'm thinking this is starting to go in the right direction. And for the first half, it was. The Pittsburgh Steelers defense was on point. It was a championship defense. If you go back and listen to some of the things that I have been saying this entire week, I've been talking about this offensive line from the Cincinnati Bengals. I know they had a bunch of new parts and they were hopeful. However, majority of those parts hadn't played together or at all this preseason. A lot of them were coming back off of injury. I liked the matchup between Cam Hayward and the 4th-round rookie Cordell Volson for the Cincinnati Bengals. I thought that was going to be a matchup to exploit, and I couldn't be more pleased with what the defense did. Now, my concern is this offense. Like, I was really, really disappointed in the way that this offense played. You cannot have a positive 5 turnover game. You're +5 in the turnover and go to overtime. Or I mean, in reality, if the Cincinnati Bengals would have had a healthy long snapper, probably lose this game. And so I was extremely disappointed with the offense. Now, I have mixed emotions when it comes to the offensive line. The offensive line did, in my opinion, played way above what I expected when it came to the passing. However, when you look at the how the Steelers did rushing, it wasn't very good. There was hardly any room. I think Najee had a couple of big runs, but outside of that, nobody got anything over a couple of yards. There wasn't any push up front. Now they did give Mitch a lot of time, and I've been watching and listening to a couple of different YouTube creators that are out there, and they've been going back and forth whether or not Mitch should continue to be the starter or whatnot. My thing is here. Mason Rudolph played 10 games as a starter, and everybody knows what we have in him. Mitch Trubisky's been a starter in this league for a while. We know what we have in Mitch Trubisky as well. I didn't see anything different here than what he has been showing in preseason, what he's been showing in Chicago. There was a run for a loss of 2 that he did something very similar where he should have thrown the ball away in the preseason, and it was almost a mirror of what he did then today. I didn't like the decisions that he did with the ball. I've said it before. He doesn't handle pressure very well, and he seems to be confused when there's disguise, and he won't make the throw down the field. I wasn't pleased with him, especially in the second half. In the second half of that game, I thought Mitch Trubisky played extremely poor. I get it. He didn't turn the ball over. He didn't throw an interception, but he didn't do anything either. In fact, in my opinion, I think Joe Burrow, who threw 4 interceptions and was, had a fumble, showed more flash, showed more spark than what Mitch Trubisky did. I think we know what we have in Mitch Trubisky. And I don't see him becoming this quarterback that was picked second overall and had all these high expectations. I really don't. I don't like his decision making. And I think that at this point in time, how much more of a chance of winning does Mitch Trubisky give you over Kenny Pickett? That's honestly my question to the team and my question to the fans out there. And you can let me know in the comment section. How much more of a chance does Mitch Trubisky give you of winning? Because the only thing that I saw in this game that Mitch Trubisky did probably that maybe a rookie wouldn't have done is throw the ball in the direction of Pat Freiermuth while going down in the end zone for a safety to get the ball out of his hands to avoid 2 points. That was his best play, in my opinion, for most of it. His ball positioning wasn't the greatest. There was a play against, where Claypool had to fall sliding backwards and one hand grab it. Even the young long pass to Deontay Johnson, where and Deontay played great too. I was very pleased with him. His one-handed grab, insane catch along the sideline that had to be reviewed in overtime. The positioning of the ball wasn't even the greatest either. I believe he had earlier in the game, he had a wide open Pickens streaking down the sideline that he missed as well and threw it 5 or 6 yards out of bounds to the side of the sideline. I'm just not impressed with him. I don't see a spark. I don't see any comfortability. He seems like he's looking at the rush more often than what's going downfield. And he got lucky at a certain point where he was rushing around trying to juke a safety that the defensive tackle that was coming behind him didn't hit him and cause a fumble. I think the collective breath of Steeler Nation was on hold as everybody saw what was going on behind him. And, that sixth sense, maybe that's the other thing that gets him, because he had a sixth sense there that he tucked the ball in and he managed to not get a fumble. But there was one thing that I did notice, that every time Mitch Trubisky did something questionable, or every time that there was a play that I thought that Mitch didn't look like the guy or should be the guy in there, the camera kind of panned towards Mike Tomlin a little bit. And there was some major concern in his, I don't know if he's maybe it's just me hoping that he's double thinking his idea. But here's the thing. If Mitch Trubisky goes into week 2 at the season home opener against the Jets, against the New England Patriots this upcoming Sunday, and starts to play like this, I wouldn't be surprised if the Kenny chants start before even kickoff, to be honest with you. I think the collective mind of Pittsburgh is very upset at the play of the quarterback position. I think, and maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh. He did win. He didn't turn over the ball, but mean, let's talk about it. He was 21 for 38, 194 yards, 1 touchdown with a quarterback rating of 47.2. You know, a lot of folks, I think I've heard somebody say or saw somewhere, you know, he did enough to win the game. Nah, the defense did enough to win the game. The defense did enough to win this game. Mitch Trubisky didn't lose the game in the essence of he didn't hand the ball over to the other team like Joe Burrow did. But Joe Burrow did enough for his team to win. You know, like I mentioned before, they are a Clark Harris long snapper away from winning that game. That's just my opinion. And so I think that the Steelers are going to be in trouble if they continue to play in this manner. I don't think that. Well, one thing that one pattern that I am seeing out of the offense is it seems like the Matt Canada offense is an offense that still wants to methodically travel down the field and, you know, get 5-6 yard bunches, maybe do 8, 9, 12 yard, 12 play drives. And then, you know, take a lot of time off the clock and score a touchdown. At least that's what it appears to be with Mr. Trubisky. A lot of these short passes, it didn't look too much different than what Ben was doing as far as the outcome, as far as how far down the field the ball was going. I think the main difference is what they attacked Pat Fryermuth. There was a lot more motion. However, I just didn't feel comfortable with, well, let's look at the first drive. You have 3 completions for 9 yards. That's an average of 3 yards per pass. That's not enough, guys. That's not enough. And so it's just uncomfortable. And, you know, if you're going to run this style of offense where you're going to have to go into 3rd and short and methodically drive down the field, you have to have the margin of error is going to be very small, very small. And so that's why, you know, it's important, in my opinion, to get bigger chunk plays and get a little bit more splash. This methodical thing, it's not working especially with Mitch Trubisky. I don't think he's the quarterback for that style of offense. I'm not saying that Kenny Pickett is or isn't. However, also at the same token, and now I want to watch all 22, and I can't wait for it to come out. Please hit that like and subscribe, guys, because I will be doing a film breakdown on Mitch Trubisky, because I want to see where there are throws out there that he could have made, where the decision making, was there some decisions that it could have been better made. And I'm going to put it out there. If the receivers weren't doing their job and there wasn't anybody to be open, you know, we'll put it out there and we'll show you guys that, look, this is what Mitch was working with. However, you know, when you have Deontay Johnson, Pat Fryermuth, Chase Claypool in the slot, and George Pickens on the outside, and you're telling me that nobody's getting open at any point, I don't know about that. And so I want to see that. I want to see how that's going to, you know, comes out. I'll be putting that out probably about Wednesday or Thursday. The all 22 usually comes out on Tuesday, so you don't want to miss it. So please hit that like and subscribe button. But yeah, back to the game. I think that, you know, and a lot of the Cincinnati Bengal fans, I'm sure, are going to attribute this loss to the kicker. However, there were some questionable penalties at the end of the game. And not to mention, if Najee Harris doesn't go down also, then the Steelers are going to run the clock down in that situation and force the Cincinnati Bengals to use their remaining timeouts and make that last drive to put it into overtime significantly harder. You know, the second play after the Najee injury is probably going to be either another run or a shorter pass with a higher percent of completion, which is going to force them to use their final timeout. And then the Steelers are going to run another third play that's going to push the ball down under a minute and then kick it off to them and have them drive the length of the field for a touchdown with significantly less time. So there was some questionable, you know, play calls, decisions, injuries that led to the outcome of this game. You know, I thought that I'm part of Behind the Steel Curtain. I do a Saturday morning podcast, and I'm on their Slack channel, and Big Bro Sco had put on, there's like, now that the game is over, if everybody who live, if you were to count all the collective lives or years that were shed off from this game because of how much of a heart attack it probably gave everybody and shed years off their life. Probably hit the triple digits, and I agreed with him. I was like, man, that was an exhaustive, draining game. It's the Steelers are in midseason form. If you look at it, the last season, majority of their games were within one score or in overtime, and you don't get any closer to a tie than this one, in my opinion. But I was super pleased with the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. I've been calling it out this entire week. I thought that this game had an opportunity to be, for the Steelers to take control and it to be one that could get out of hand very easily in the favor of the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I felt that the offensive line of the Cincinnati Bengals was a huge concern for them. And I felt that the strength of our defense was going to be on the defensive line with the acquisition of Larry Ogunjobi, with bringing back a healthy Tyson Alualu from injury. I felt that this was going to be and Cam Hayward on a 4th-round rookie. I thought that was going to be a matchup nightmare for the Cincinnati Bengals. And I was right, man. And if the offense could have done something, like I said before, you don't be 5+ and turnover battle and go into overtime, or the game shouldn't even be close, to be honest with you. And so let me know in the comment section what you guys think. I'll be going through there now, answering some comments and taking some questions from you guys. I appreciate everybody in there. Please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Let's see. Moses says, put Kenny Pickett to start because Kenny Pickett will make us get down the field. I agree. At this point, it's not so much about whether or not that I think Kenny Pickett will be better. Well, you know what it is? In my opinion, I think Kenny Pickett in preseason showed to be a better quarterback than Mitch Trubisky. And in the preseason, Mitch didn't look comfortable, especially under pressure. He made some questionable decisions, which led to him running out of bounds for a couple of yards loss when he could have thrown the ball and saved a couple of yards. He did the same thing in preseason. He did the same thing today. It's not changed. He is who he is. He's got 5 years or 4 years of starts under his belt. I don't think that all of a sudden, sitting on the bench in Buffalo, he coming in preseason and show that he really hasn't changed much, that the regular season, when the defenses that you're playing are going to start scheming against you, is going to all of a sudden start looking any better. I didn't think so. And I was very concerned about this game. And hopefully, and the thing is, if Mitch Trubisky starts to struggle in week 2 and the Kenny chants start coming out and they start coming and they start roaring by the masses, that's not going to do well for his confidence. And I don't think that it's just going to be a bad look if he's really, really struggling and they start going with him. I understand that there's a lot of folks that say, hey, you know what? The offensive line is bad. Don't put him in. I don't really fall into that narrative. I don't like that narrative. I think that the offensive line and the quarterback and the protection and everything that goes along with that is a combined effort between the quarterback, the running back, and the offensive line. There's got to be some kind of communication and knowledge and breakdown of the protection. And at the end of the day as well, you have to be able to handle the pressure. And today, I think that the offensive line, when it came to the pass protection, played above the line. And I felt that Mitch had time to throw the ball. He had plenty of time to throw the ball. I was extremely pleased with the offensive line when it came to the pass protection. Now, running, that's a different story. Let's see. Steelers Nation says, I have no words to describe what I watch. Oh, I agree. George goes, Daniel, what do you think about Highsmith now? Pretty good, in my honest opinion. I like I said it before, I've been riding Alex Highsmith this entire offseason, talking about, his, in my opinion, he needed to step it up. Last season, he had 6 sacks, which was, results matter, and he wasn't getting there. And so I thought that he needed to have a double-digit sack year, and now more than ever, he really does need to. He needs to step it up. He needs to really step up to the standard, because I honestly think that TJ Watt's probably going to be out for some significant time, if not for the rest of the season. But we'll find out tomorrow. Hopefully, fingers crossed, prayers up that he's okay and it won't be a season ender. Yeah, Mitch T started and he did not see some receivers open. No, I agree. I agree completely. Let me see. Lou goes, here we go, Steelers, here we go. Steelers fan goes, yeah, Next trip to the therapist, the cardiologist, to everybody across the board. I mean, that was a that was a that was that was a game that, in my opinion, if we thought that the Steelers were going to have any more like heart-wrenching games this season, I think they had 3 in this one game. It was insane. Let's see what else we have. George says that's an insane. How about that insane D? I agree, man. The D looked great. And that's one thing like I was saying, man, this is a championship defense. And one thing that I said about it last year and the year before, the biggest problem on the defense is the fact that the offensive team cannot hold on to the ball and give this team the break. They constantly have them on the field. They constantly have them in situations where they have to be playing at such a championship level at all times. Injuries are going to be a part of that. In my opinion, if the Pittsburgh Steelers can maintain the ball and hold the time of possession of an average team, drive down the field and not have to wait until the second half before they get, third down conversions going, in my opinion, then that's going to reduce the amount of time that the defense is going to be on the field, thus reducing the amount or the probability of injury. It didn't look good. It didn't look good. Yep. Crab Gravy says, am I right tomorrow? Fingers crossed, partial tear, I guess. Yeah, that's the only thing that we can kind of hope for at this point. TJ Watt's brother, JJ Watt, has had a torn pec. Cam Hayward's had a torn pec. Tuitt's had a torn pec. And so those guys there, I know Tuitt's no longer on the team, but he talked about, can't remember if it was Tuitt who had it first or Cam, but either way, both of them were talking about how they used each other to go through that situation. Now, if it's a partial torn, I'm not sure what the extent is, but it's still a long-term injury that's going to have some rehab. Back in 1995, the Pittsburgh Steelers suffered a huge injury to their star defensive player, which was Rod Woodson that year. That year, the Steelers made it to the Super Bowl. Not saying that's going to happen this year, but we got to keep our hopes up, right, guys? Let's see. Sean Downey says 7 sacks, 4 picks. Offense was good enough, but not great. Well, I mean, I know what you're saying as far as, the Steelers got the W. The Steelers won. The offense did good enough to win. Like I said, there was a couple of things that Mitch did do well. I got to give him his props. And he got the ball down the field and was able to get that final drive in position for that game-winning touch field goal by Boz. I don't know, man. I think that, like I said it before, and I think I opened it up with this question early on, is how much more of a chance does Mitch Trubisky give you than Kenny Pickett at this point in winning the game? That's what this boils down to, in my opinion. Let's see. Ollie says, to all the doubters, don't ever pick against the family. Here we go. You're absolutely right. A lot of people would call me a homer and biased and this and that because I was picking the Steelers to win and win big. And, man, tell you what, the Steelers had the opportunity to really take control of this game early, and it could have been a blowout and way worse than it was. Like I said, you have 5 turnovers. You don't give the ball up. You protect the ball. You're supposed to win by double-digit score. I mean, that's just what is expected. That should be the standard when you have five turnovers. In my opinion, the defense, carried the offense. The defense was good enough to beat the Bengals because when you think about it, the defense scored 10 points. They scored a touchdown on a pick six, and then they got another turnover, which led to a field goal because the offense couldn't get it in. So defense scored, 10 of the 23 points, 10 of the 17 that were in the first half. Let's see. This is true. George says at least the O didn't give away any touchdowns. I agree. I mean, they did protect the ball. It's just at the same token, when you're protecting the ball, you're not playing to win. You're playing not to lose. And in those situations, you can find yourself losing a game, which the Pittsburgh Steelers almost did. It's kind of like, you hear the saying, the prevent defense, the only thing that does is prevent you from winning. And so once you go into that prevent defense, I felt that the Steelers were in some kind of prevent offense, especially in the second half. They didn't want to give up the big, the lead. They felt that in my opinion, they felt like the defense was strong enough to hold off the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Bengals just, didn't quit. They kept going. They wouldn't give up. And like I said, the Steelers were a Clark Harris snapper away from probably losing this game. Let's see. Steelers Nation goes, I feel like the offense will continue to improve, so I'm not going to overact. They need to step up. The defense carried. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree that the offense needs to improve. My concern is with quarterback Mitch Trubisky. It's not so much the entire offense. And the reason being is, like I said, I have a friend of mine who is a diehard Chicago Bears fan, and I've had conversations with him about Mitch Trubisky. And what he said was like, yeah, when the pocket's clean and somebody's wide open, he can make that throw. But when he's under pressure or is having to move around, he's not comfortable. It wasn't completely naggy in that situation. I see that in the preseason, and I see this in the regular season. I don't see it changing. This is something that's been his MO for the last few years. It's kind of concerning because I don't think it's just something that's going to change. I don't think that's something that's going to change overnight with him. I think that's who he is, and that's what he's become. He's protected the ball for the most part. He's relied on a good defense. That's what he did in Chicago, and it got him to a playoffs. However, the more time you have on the field and the more games, this more film you're putting out there for defenses to figure you out. And so Mr. Trubisky has a lot of film out there. And if he can't overcome what the defenses are doing to him and he's still continuing to struggle, at this point, I think it's time to put in the rook. What's the worst that can happen? I think that at this point, especially if you have the reigning defensive player of the year going out for a while, and like I said, how much more does Mitch give you? Let's see. Steelers Nation says Minkah for MVP. Yeah. And in fact, I think someone had asked me, I think it may have been you, George. I saw in the comment section who was my MVP or player of the game, and it's definitely going to be. Well, that's a tough one. I mean, of course, Minkah Fitzpatrick, because he had the pick six, he put points on the board, and if not for that play, if not for several plays, Steelers don't win. But I think Cam Hayward played a very solid game as well. Alex Highsmith played out of this world. TJ Watt was just, until he got injured, was a man out of, crazy out there. He had sacks, he had pass breakups, he had an interception. He was, still on the same trajectory. It's just unfortunate because, I think that I said it earlier this season, if, he had a healthy season, I think he breaks the single sack record this year, and I don't think he's going to get that opportunity now. Let's see. Wasn't impressed by Mitch. Rather have the accuracy of Kenny. You see, and that is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. I completely agree, Ali. I just completely agree. And I don't want this just to turn into the Mitch show. I'm going to start calling that. When he plays back, instead of the show, I'm going to call it the Mitch show. It was a Mitch show out there. And in my opinion, had he turned the ball over, it would have been even worse. But fortunately, the Pittsburgh Steelers got a W. They're going to go back into the film, back into the practice, look at the tape and see what's going on and see if they can fix this issue. But like I said, I was super impressed with the offensive line when it came to pass protection. Don't want to, take that away from them. Like I said, I know that the offensive line didn't look very well when it came to the running game. I'm going to break down some film to see what happened. Y'all got to remember, Najee Harris didn't play a lot this preseason, so I was expecting him to be a little bit rusty. He's been dealing with a Liz Frank sprain, and so perhaps there was some lanes and perhaps there was some things that he could have done that the running backs weren't seeing or doing. We'll know once we look at the all-22. The offensive line is something that I really take a look at, and so don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss that stuff right there. Let's see. KP seems to throw the ball down the field without doubt. Maybe. I mean, I haven't seen it in the pros yet. I've seen maybe a couple of passes in preseason that were about 10, 15 yards down the field. I think his most impressive throw was to Boykin, back shoulder pass. That was down the field. Oh, you know what? I take that back. His most impressive throw was the Pat Fryermuth under pressure with pressure in his face. But even that one wasn't like too far down the field. It wasn't like a bomb or anything like that. I'd really like to see Kenny Pickett air it out a little bit more. I think that was the one thing that I really wanted to see was more chances down the field in preseason. That if the NFL had 4 preseason games, we probably would have seen a little bit more. And perhaps if the NFL had 4 preseason games, week 1, Kenny Pickett could have had a better chance of starting. Let's see. Crab Gravy says New England didn't look too good today. I heard that, and I haven't seen the game yet. I'm going to go ahead and watch them. I know that they lost pretty convincingly to the Miami Dolphins in Miami. However, the New England Patriots have struggled in Miami for years, even when they've had Tom Brady. And so it's a divisional game. It doesn't really, the Steelers have had some close divisional games against teams in the division that weren't good across the board. Not saying that the Miami Dolphins aren't good or the Patriots aren't good. It's too early in the season for that. But when you have a divisional game, those games are going to be, well, I think this one was a blowout, but they know each other more than anybody. And you're going to get some of these surprise games, just like when you had Cincinnati Bengals beat the Steelers a couple of years back when Burrow went down, things of that nature. Just one more dig at the Bengals, I know. Things of that nature. You're gonna have those things happen, and so the Patriots have been having a problem there in Miami. So I'm not. We'll see how it goes. I want to look at the tape, see what they struggled at, and see what the Steelers can do. But yeah, no, it's going to be a tall task because Bill Belichick usually has a good, solid defense, and Mitch Trubisky, he's going to have a game plan for Mitch. We'll see how long this leash is really for Mitch, because like I mentioned before, if the boo birds start coming out early and the chance for Kenny Pickett come out, that's not going to do well for his confidence. And in my opinion, I think that at a certain point, if he does continue to struggle, then the Steelers are going to have to make a move. Let's just see what else. KP is coming, but I do think Mitch is still QB1 for now and possibly for the year. As Coach T knows what's best. From George. Yeah, I agree that Coach T knows what's best. However, I'm not saying that Mitch Trubisky is going to that's the plan for Mitch Trubisky if he continues to struggle or if this continues to be the thing. Because the other thing you have to realize too is if the offense continues to struggle in this manner, the arrows are also going to start to be pointed at Matt Canada if they're not pointed there already. A lot of folks are talking about him being on the hot seat already because of his play calling and what he's done in the past. And I don't, and rightfully so. The offense has been stagnant. It's been anemic at best. And, it's been like that for a couple of years. And so a lot of folks have looked and pointed the arrows towards Matt Canada as far as the possible reason for the decline in the offensive play. And, I don't think Matt Canada wants that heat. I don't think he wants to lose his job. There might be some pressure from him as well. Like, hey, this is my offense that he might be going up to T and saying, hey, this is the offense that I've created. It's been an offense for a Kenny Pickett style quarterback that can throw accurately down the field. We have somebody that can run this offense better. And let's put that guy in there. Like I said, I think this chant right here from TaylorMade 3906, Kenny, is going to be loud and proud come this Sunday. Let's see. So George says the did enough to win the game 6 or 7 times. I agree. There were so many different times that I thought, all right, that's it. Steelers won. When Najee went down with his foot injury, I thought, that was a good opportunity for the Steelers to close out that game. No. And then when Boz went out there in overtime with the first one that doinked off the field goal post, I was like, as he was about to kick it off, I was like, you know what? Boz is going in the game, 50-plus yarder, but it's makeable. And initially when he kicked it, I was like, man, that's a weird traveling ball, like a knuckleball going up there. And it first kind of went out, then in, and then it was like curving in like it was going to go in, and then boom. At that point, I was like, man, I'm kind of concerned. Well, I'd been already concerned, I'm sorry. But at that point, I was like, man, we're giving them the ball so close. They're not going to try to go for a field goal at that point because of their snapper. Ended up working out best for the Steelers. Let's see. Thank you. I appreciate it. This Claude Bishop goes to the backdrop is sick. This is my post-game drop backdrop. So I got a few different ones. I got one for my weekly show, and I got one for my my pregame. Let's see. They shouldn't have thrown Ben out of town. Well, I think Ben would have played a lot better than Mitch Trubisky today. I can tell you that right now. I don't think this game comes close to the wire. Then Big Ben Roethlisberger's in the game. Tell me what you think in the live chat. Do you guys think that Big Ben would have done better in this game. I think the offensive line gave Mitch Trubisky enough time to throw the ball. Again, they were also respecting his mobility, something that Big Ben didn't have. And so that's good comment. Good comment. And see, and Lauren goes, I'm not convinced that Mr. Trubisky is the answer. I think the win was in spite of him. I completely agree and couldn't have said that any better. It was in spite of him. He didn't do enough to win, in my opinion. He didn't flash. He didn't show anything that made me think, oh, you know what? That's what we're looking for. Name one play where we're like, that's it. That's what we're looking for. That's the guy. That's the flash. That's the spark. That's QB1. That's our franchise guy. I didn't see anything. It's just disappointment. Sears Nation goes, run blocking needs to improve, though. I completely agree. Run blocking does need to improve. I'm going to go look back at the all-22 and see what was going on. Mason Cole went down. I don't know if, as you guys remember, he did go down. It was very humid out there. I think it was just cramps. I think a lot of these guys were having cramps because of the humidity. It'd been raining off and on, and it's so early in the season, it's still kind of warm. And so that humidity was really kicking in. Don't forget to evaluate the line. Like I said, Lou, I think that the offensive line played above the line when it came to the pass protection. I think that Mitch had time, and I'm not going to say that the offensive line was great, but to what I was expecting them to play, that was way above. I was really concerned going into this game based on what preseason had showed. And I didn't think Mitch Trubisky was going to have any time back there whatsoever. And that wasn't the case. I mean, I know the Steelers rolled him out a lot and just to kind of give him a bit of a moving pocket to protect him. But like I mentioned before, I don't know. I know that the commentator, he mentioned at one point in the game, he said that the receivers weren't doing anything. I don't know about that, man. I don't think I want to see the all-22. I can't wait to see the all-22 and break this down. Let's see. George goes, I just don't blame everything on Mitch. I don't blame everything on Mitch. I just don't think that when I'm watching this game, that Mitch was the guy when it comes to the quarterback position. I'm not saying that he was at fault for everything that went wrong. However, the running game didn't go well, and that's not Mitch's fault. I like the play calls some of the play calls that were going down the field. There was a lot more trickery by Matt Canada, a lot more motion, a lot more movement. The jet sweeps were quite a bit there. In fact, that led to Claypool being the leading rusher with 36 yards. That was insane. So Lauren goes, there was one instance in which I was mad about Claypool today, and it was in the fourth quarter in which he dropped the catch. I know what you're talking about. That was a back. So he was streaking down the field, and Mitch tried to hit him with a back shoulder pass that was really low and far, and it was a difficult catch to make. By the time that he got his hands on the ball, he was about to collide with the ground, which is where, if the ball isn't that low, perhaps gives a better position or a better ball there. Perhaps he makes the play. Maybe perhaps he catches that ball. He had a one-handed grab earlier in the game where he was sliding back, and that one was extremely impressive on a ball, again, that I don't know if it got away from Mitch or it's just an accuracy issue. But, yeah. Brian Brown goes 1-0, baby. Yep. That's what's up, Cloud. Joe Burrow can kiss the crying Bengals lady's foot. I like that one. Here it is. It was Claude Bishop. Sorry about that, Claude. He asks me who was my player of the game. And if I had to choose one, I'm going to go with probably Minkah Fitzpatrick. He was out there, man. He was causing havoc in the backfield. In the backfield. He was intercepting the ball. He was all over the place. He was dislodging the ball from the receivers. I thought he played a fantastic game. I truly did. Let's see. I'm going to kind of scroll down these a little bit quick. Let's see. Daniel, you hiding your gray hairs from under your hat? I wish I had gray hairs under this hat, George. Or Robert, I'm sorry. I wish I had some gray hair under this hat. Let's see. Uh, let's go there. So yeah, I think that the defense, they played well. I think that the defense is what really won this game. And there was a lot of questions and a lot of questions about when to start Kenny Pickett. And the thing was, I always said that Mitch was going to have to show up and show and be pretty good if Steelers were losing or winning in spite of him, as Lauren mentioned earlier. Great comment. I think you have to give the rookie a chance because there's comes a certain point where if they're playing almost the same, or the level of play is the same, or even if Kenny Pickett's playing better, you want to give that experience to the rook. He's going to be the guy. He's the future. He's the franchise dude. I'll say I think that leash needs to be shortened. Let's see. But one thing that kind of tells me that it may not be shortened, we'll see. It's that in the press conference, Mike Tomlin was asked about the game ball, and he said that he gave all new players to the team game ball. When asked also Mitch Trubisky, he said all the new players, which kind of alluded that, because Mitch Trubisky's a new player to the team, that he also got a game ball for his efforts in this game. I just feel that, like Lauren said, they won in spite of him. But I'd rather go into week 2 on a win versus a loss. So, there's some question marks and there's some concerns there, but there's some time to fix this. And the next upcoming matchup against the New England Patriots, they didn't play well today. They might have some weaknesses that the Steelers can exploit. I look forward to the matchup. They're going to have a strong defense. Bill Belichick's going to have them prepared for this game. The Steelers put down on film a little bit about what they're planning on doing this year. A lot of motion, a lot of jet sweeps, and some misdirection, and some moving pockets. You can kind of see those things, and I anticipate those things kind of being the meat and potato of what this offense is. And so I see the Steelers moving the ball around a lot and trying to make some passes down the field. Let's see. Brian goes, the Steelers defense can be elite. I just hope TJ Watt is okay. I do too, man. If it can be in my opinion, I think he's going to be out for a few weeks, even if it's just a partial tear. But let's prayers up. Hopefully that's all it is. Let's see. Yep, 4 to 6 weeks if it's a partial torn pec, depending on how bad the tear is. When it was weird. I was watching the play, in fact, where he got hurt, and it wasn't like he was lifting anybody up or anything like that. He was coming down on Joe Burrow, and he tackled him and pulled him down, and then he's like, got up and tore my pec or whatever, right? But it wasn't like he was doing an emotion where he was lifting or pulling or anything like that. So it's possible that it's just is a partial torn, given that, but I'm not a doctor, so I'm just wishful thinking. Let's see. I agree with this. It's different. Said we should have had 34 points. Pittsburgh Steelers should have had a tremendous amount of more points. This should not have been a close game. With the amount of turnovers that the Pittsburgh Steelers had, this should not have been a close game whatsoever. 2 trips to the goal line. Yes, sir. Let's see. And George goes, I predicted 27-16, the good guys. It should have been a blown out. I agree. I had predicted 27-17 earlier in the week. I felt, like I said before, I've been kind of predicting this, that the defensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers was going to wreak havoc on the Cincinnati Bengals, and they were going to give the Steelers an opportunity to take this game and get in control of this game early. I felt that there was going to be a lot of pressure on Joe Burrow, and given the fact that he hadn't played meaningful football recently, that there's going to be some rust there, and there sure was, and the Steelers took advantage of that. Let's see. Claude Bishop goes, hopefully we'll be 2-0 after next week. I hope so too. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to have to go pick up an outside linebacker. Jameer Jones played, he played okay. I saw him out there. I saw his presence. Malik Reed was also out there. He had some pressures. I thought he played a little bit better than Jameer Jones, which would be expected given the pedigree of Malik Reed. But I think the Steelers are going to have to get somebody else. the combination between Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt was supposed to get somewhere around, in my opinion, something about 30, 28, 30 sacks, somewhere around there combined. You're looking at about maybe 18 to 12, TJ Watt and Highsmith, and you're going to have to make up 18 sacks somewhere, and Malik Reed is probably going to get about 8 this year. Well, there's still 10 somewhere around there, so we got to figure something out. Maybe Malik Reed can get 10, and I think I think the Steelers need to bring in a guy. We're going to have to bring in a guy because that third outside linebacker is rotated a lot. And if this offense is not going to be holding on to the ball, or the time of possession is going to be weak and they can't stay on the field on third downs, they're definitely going to have to pick up a guy or two, just a couple of bodies, because tiredness and fatigue and injury are going to start to set in, just like it's been a formula that's happened the last few years, a couple of years, in my opinion, when it comes to the defense. Defense has been stellar and elite. However, due to the time on the field that they have and the style of defense that they play, have led to injuries from fatigue. It's just what it is. Let's see. 39 had the block on the extra point. Yes, he did. Like, I'll be honest with you guys. I was sitting there on my couch thinking, that's it, we lost. And I had a Achilles tendon rupture a couple years back. Well, not even a couple years. It'll be 2 years this January. And I'll be the first one to say, like, when Devin Bush or any of these guys have major surgery or an injury, it is a mental challenge to come back, to trust the ankle, trust the knee, trust whatever surgery or injury that you have. There's been a few times that I've jumped up and down, and the first time I jumped up and down on my leg was when TJ Watt scored a touchdown last postseason against the Chiefs. That was the first time I ever jumped on my leg. It was a scary moment afterwards because I was like, "Are you okay?" And then the other one was today when Minkah blocked that kick. I was deflated. I thought the game was over. I was upset, thinking to myself, how can you get so many turnovers and lose the game? And I was mad. And then there's the block. My wife looked at me. She's like, I told you don't give up hope. And I was like, man, you can tell that ball, when it was snapped, was going so slow. And that the Steelers had an opportunity to block it. And it is what it is. That's the way the cookie crumbles, so to speak. And the Steelers won the game. Let's see what else we have in here. His difference is Najee was hurt from the door. He was running very sluggish. I agree. Najee's been dealing with a Liz Frank sprain that occurred first day of padded practice back in training camp, which was probably about 6-7 weeks ago. Maybe a little bit longer than that now. It was in early August. And so late July, somewhere around there, he was out for all of preseason, except for the last game. And even in that last game against the Detroit Lions, I thought he looked a little slow. And when you have a foot injury, it inhibits your running, your cardio. I think it would probably be best for Najee to get healthy, get back down to, or pick up his speed a little bit, because he looked extremely sluggish. He looked like he was very slow. He did. I think Jaylen Warren looked like a speedier back, and Jaylen Warren is not a speed back. And so, but even, I think Jaylen Warren can hold it off for a little bit. I'm still very impressed with what he's been able to do, being a undrafted rookie. Let's see. Oh, wow. I didn't know about this. Blitzberg says Brian Hoyer might be the quarterback next week. Mac Jones had a back injury. I'll be honest with you guys. I kind of knocked out after this exhausting game for a little bit. So I haven't caught up on everything else, but I will be catching up soon. Let's see. Oh, yes. Taylor made 3906. Thank you for reminding me. Mitch chucked it over the middle. Should have been picked. He threw it across his body, across the field. That just kind of added to more of the decision making that led me to question what he's doing. Those aren't things you do as a starter in this league. Those aren't things that a seasoned NFL quarterback does. And I go back to when the Steelers acquired Mitch Trubisky, and you can go back to my videos and watch them. I said this. I said there's a huge question mark for me when it comes to Mitch, because once the Steelers acquired him, Tyler Minkah, who's currently on the Buffalo Bills, who was a Pittsburgh Steeler, Levi Wallace, who was a Buffalo Bills, now a Pittsburgh Steeler, were asked and questioned about Mitch Trubisky and his potential ability to be an NFL starter as the quarterback position. And both of those guys said, hey, you know what? We like Mitch. He's a good quarterback. We felt that if Josh Allen went down last season, Mitch had to come in, he could win some games. You know, those are things that you want to hear out of a backup quarterback. What you would prefer to hear was like, man, Mitch is the guy. He could be a franchise guy. He can pick up an organization. He can take an organization to the next level. Those are things you want to hear about a potential quarterback that's got something there that can potentially be a franchise guy or a starter in this league. That's not what I was hearing from the players that were around him last year. And so that was my first big, these are also guys who know him that are going to want to talk about him in a better light. And I just didn't feel like he got that love, so to speak. And that made me kind of question, maybe perhaps if they're not seeing it, and these are the guys that are seeing him every day in practice, maybe it's not there. He hasn't shown it. I don't think he has in his entire time as a quarterback in the NFL. Not as a Steeler, not as a Chicago Bear. And, outside of one game in preseason as a Buffalo Bill, I don't think he did there either. Let's see. Mitch sure ain't been, but he's serviceable. And you see, him being serviceable just means to me that he's a backup quarterback. And I think, he's just a backup quarterback. I hate to repeat myself so much. Let's see. George goes, the O-line play equals close to average. I agree that it was pretty average, but based on what I was expecting, that was a lot better than what I was thinking going into this game. I thought that the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line was not gonna be able to hold up. I thought that the problems that were happening in the preseason were going to fall into the regular season, and to a certain extent they did with the running attack, but not with the passing attack. They gave Mitch plenty of time to throw the ball lanes, and like I said, a lot of it also had to do with scheme. They moved Mitch around quite a bit. They had a moving pocket for him, and when they did that for him, that moving pocket, in my opinion, that was the cleanest pocket that he had. Let's see. But, well, again, kind of long in the tooth here, guys. So I appreciate everybody that was in the live chat. I still see Patricia, Michael O'Malley coming in kind of towards the bottom here. Steelers fan, always appreciate you. Appreciate everybody in the live chat. Please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe, guys. I'll be having a couple of shows coming out this week. We'll be doing a live probably Tuesday night. I want to start doing a live on Tuesday nights. Talk about the press conference that Mike Tomlin had and things of that nature. So you don't want to miss it. Please hit that like and subscribe, guys. And if you have any other comments or questions for the show, you can leave them in the bottom of the comment section. You can hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @StateOfSteelers. Also, guys, we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere you find your podcast. So if you want to just put me in your pocket and listen to me on a drive, on a jog, or whatever it is that you want to do, you can always go and leave and listen to me there in Spotify, Anchor, Google, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts. So with that being said, guys, I appreciate everybody here. Pittsburgh Steelers are 1-0. They come up with a W regardless of anything. Up next is the New England Patriots and the home opener. Here you go, Steelers. Peace.